Zone 5 exercise.
Norwegian 4x4 minute interval. A few days ago I found myself in a video by the longevity guru Bryan. Not because he interviewed me, but because his team pulled a clip from one of my videos completely out of context and actually used it to make it look like I support the exact same training protocol that I was criticizing in that video. So I thought, okay, this is somewhat misleading, but maybe it was just a mistake. And I left a polite comment trying to explain the actual context, and then 10 minutes later, that comment had been deleted. And I don't know if Bryan removed it or someone from his team removed it or if YouTube just did something weird. But now I feel like I have to make this video to explain some important things. And Bryan, if you are watching this, I have a direct message for you at the end of this video as well. Bryan's video is built around 5 pillars of exercise for longevity: strength, low intensity cardio, high intensity cardio, mobility and balance. And before I go any further, I want to be fair. I don't agree with everything in that video. I think there are some big generalizations being made, and he seems to take all correlation studies and make it sound like it is also proof of the causation, which simply isn't true. But with that said, a lot of the general advice in that video is good. What I mainly don't like is the framing. The title of the video is "You're exercising wrong," and in the video he opens with this.
Most people who exercise are doing it all wrong and it's shortening their lives.
And I would have framed that very differently. But by the way, the costume and production is really funny throughout this video, so props on that. But what I would have want to say instead is most people who exercise at all are not shortening their lives from doing anything wrong. Most people who exercise even a little bit in any shape or form are doing a lot of things right, and they're actually adding life to their years and probably also years to their life in the process. But I guess that title and opening wouldn't have gotten a million views. But yeah, again, a lot of what he says in this video is still good common knowledge about the health benefits of different types of exercise. The real problem starts in the high intensity section. He talks about VO2 max, which is one of the strongest predictors of longevity, and we'll get into why that framing matters soon. But then he moves into the Norwegian 4x4 interval protocol, and right there in that sequence they use this clip from my video, clearly placing me as one of the people praising and giving legitimacy to this magical protocol.
My personal favorites, the Norwegian 4x4.
The Norwegian 4x4 interval training protocol.
Norwegian 4x4 is gold standard at the moment for improving VO2 max.
The magical Norwegian 4x4 minute intervals were
The Norwegian 4x4 interval training is one of the most effective ways to boost endurance, heart health, and VO2 max.
This is 4 minutes of high intensity zone 5 exercise, followed by 3 minutes of zone 2. Do 4 sets of these.
Now, I was not saying that the Norwegian 4x4 is magical. I was saying that is how it has been hyped. That word magical used as criticism, not endorsement. But in Bryan's video, that clip appears right next to the claim that the Norwegian 4x4 is the gold standard, etc, etc. My whole video that this clip was taken from argues the complete opposite. It goes through the original study, explains why the study design is problematic, and shows how it never proved the huge claims that have been promoted from it. So when you take one single line from my video and drop it into that sequence, the meaning doesn't just lose context, it reverses it completely. And now before we get into the actual science, and there is a pretty important error in Bryan's reasoning that I want to show you, I want to be fair about something. From what I have seen of Bryan, I actually like a lot of his general message and the mission he is on. He promotes sleep, he promotes movement, and he promotes strength training. And he promotes caring about and taking care of your health long term to live longer and a happier life. And even if his personal lifestyle seems to require a full team and a significant budget, it's also clear from what I have seen that the majority of the health and longevity benefits you can get from getting the basics right without spending a lot of money. So this isn't me saying that Bryan Johnson does a lot of bad things. I actually like a lot of what he's doing and the mission he's on. But when someone has a huge platform and presents something as science-based, the details actually matter. And in this specific case that we will get to soon, I actually think he might be harming his own mission. Here's the claim that Bryan makes, and I want to be precise because part of it is absolutely true. Higher VO2 max is associated with living longer. And people with very low cardiorespiratory fitness have significantly higher health risk. For example, in this large study here with over 122,000 adults, higher cardiorespiratory fitness was strongly associated with lower all-cause mortality. So if someone watches his video and thinks I should probably improve my cardio fitness to live longer, that is a good takeaway. But here is where the whole logic breaks. Just because a higher VO2 max is associated with a higher, longer life, that does not mean the best longevity strategy is to chase the fastest possible short-term increases in VO2 max. And it definitely does not mean that the only cardio that removes the needle for VO2 max is brutal HIIT workouts like the Norwegian 4x4. VO2 max is not an independent number just affected by high-intensity cardio. It reflects years of general movement, cardiovascular health, muscle function, body composition, genetics, and overall lifestyle. So when someone has a very low VO2 max, the problem is usually not this person hasn't done the Norwegian 4x4 intervals or other really high intensity cardio. The problem is almost always much simpler than that. This person simply does not move enough. And this really matters for the mission that Bryan is on, because the exact people in those very low VO2 max groups are often also the people where really high intensity cardio feels the scariest. So when you frame it like this, I think you risk making the threshold even higher for the people who need to improve their cardiovascular fitness the most. To see something like this and think, oh, so to fix my bad cardio fitness, I need to do this super hard Norwegian 4x4 workouts in zone 5 that Bryan is doing on his stationary bike there. And at least from my experience as a coach and physiotherapist, that can make exercise feel more intimidating than it needs to be. Because if the real problem is inactivity, the answer is not necessarily brutal hard intervals. It is getting people to move consistently, whether that is walking, cycling, jogging, or gardening, or whatever. Anything they can actually do to get their heart rate up a bit sustainably for years, which for most people isn't brutal HIIT cardio intervals 2 times a week. And when it comes to improving VO2 max specifically, yes, high intensity intervals can be very effective, but it is not the only training that affects the VO2 max. In this meta-analysis, both more traditional endurance training and high-intensity interval training improve the VO2 max. So the honest message is not that you need brutal intervals. The honest message is high-intensity intervals can be a time-efficient tool, but consistent aerobic training at many different intensities can improve your VO2 max and probably your longevity. The conclusion that is often drawn and that I think is unreasonable is the Norwegian 4x4 is the gold standard university longevity protocol or training protocol for athletes. And my original video was criticizing that kind of a conclusion. But Bryan's video used my clip as if I was one of the people supporting it and hyping this up. And Bryan himself probably had no part in including me in that wrong context. It was most likely his editing or production team. At first, even though I didn't like it, I didn't think it was that bad. I thought, okay, this is misleading, so I write a polite comment and give them a chance to correct it, maybe pin my comment, so people get aware that my clip was completely out of context. But then something strange happened. After watching how my clip was being used, I thought, okay, I just write a polite comment and clarify it. Hey Bryan, I was disappointed to see that you used a clip of me out of context in a way that makes it look like I'm promoting the 4x4 protocol. The clip you used was from a video where I was actually criticizing how the 4x4 study has been overhyped and misread online. I was quoting the hype around it, not endorsing it as a magical workout. If you watch my full video or read the actual studies, you'll see that my point was the opposite of how I was framed in your video. At least I thought that was a fair comment to leave, and then I checked, the comment was published, and then about 10 minutes later it was gone. Now I want to be careful here because I genuinely don't know what happened. I can't prove that Bryan or his team removed it. I can't rule out that YouTube automatically removed it for some reason. But I know the comment was there and then it was deleted. And I'll be honest, that irritated me quite a lot. Because at that point it's not just that my clip was used out of context. It felt like the polite correction of the context wasn't allowed to stay visible there either. And then I started seeing people who had seen both my video and Bryan's video starting leaving comments like this. Pulling 3 words from Göran Winblad to fake an endorsement is straight up dishonest. His video tears the protocol apart, weak study design, no proven superiority over other interval methods, 0 real-world transferability. He argued the exact opposite of what you're implying. If this is the level of intellectual honesty behind your sourcing, why should anyone trust a single claim in the rest of the video? Seeing comments like that made me feel that, okay, it was probably not just me being overly sensitive reacting of how my clip was used. Other people who had watched both videos read the clip of me the same way. So since I'm apparently not allowed to comment your videos, Bryan, I have a direct message to you if you watch this. So Bryan, if you see this, I appreciate a lot what you're doing. Getting people to sleep better, move more, strength train and care about their long-term health is genuinely good work. But please don't use my clip in a way that makes it look like I'm promoting the exact thing I was criticizing. And if you and your team just watched a few seconds of it, the actual context would have been very obvious. And I think that you and your team can do a better job at actually reading or watching the sources more properly, trying to understand what the studies can actually show and not just the hype around something. With that said, keep doing what you're doing. Inspiring people to prioritize their health is generally valuable work. And if you're ever here in Norway, I want to invite you to join me for an easy Zone 2 trail run here, if that fits your protocol. And I also want to tell you something I found missing in your video. Doing your cardio on actual trails in a forest like this gives you a lot more than sitting on a stationary bike inside of a gym. Because you're outside, moving through the nature, breathing fresh air, navigating roots and rocks with your feet all the time, and having to make small decisions in your brain. That is training balance, proprioception, coordination, all happening at the same time. And there's also some really interesting research on spending time in general in forest environments that can improve immune markers and the mental health benefits of green exercise. And honestly, the forest in person is a different thing entirely from the nice forest picture wall you have in your gym. And if you really want, I'll even consider doing a Norwegian 4x4 session out here with you. For everyone else watching this, I don't want this to make exercise feel even more complicated. Exercise matters for health and longevity, of course, but you don't need a single magical or so-called magical protocol. For most people, the biggest health win is simply moving more and building gradually and finding training that actually works for you and that you can enjoy and actually stay consistent with for years. Train smart, have fun, and I'll see you in the next video.